In today's video, we're going to be deep diving into our two active tropical cyclones, Tropical Storm Brett and Tropical Depression 4. So we're going to be deep diving into these, and then we're going to be breaking down our upcoming pattern as we typically do. Now, be sure to check out the trilogy maps in the description and the pinned comment down below for the highest definition, most customizable maps anywhere on the internet. Let's get into things, and as you can see, again, Tropical Storm Brett there, and then also Tropical Depression 4 right behind Brett, and Brett is approaching there into the southern Caribbean, kind of the eastern Caribbean area, and Brett is basically going to move mostly just directly westward here, so let's just take a look at that. As you can see, Brett is expected to stay a tropical storm until it's about south of Jamaica. At that point, we don't have much of an outlook here from the National Hurricane Center, so it's going to really take some time to see what they think is going to happen after that point. But this is not usually an area known for good development for tropical systems, and likely this one's going to be in more of a descending type of pattern. So that is our current expectations with Brett. As you can see, there is some tropical storm and basically tropical storm watches and warnings along that area. We do have an area with some hurricane watches, as Brett is pretty darn close to hurricane status. It would not be out of the possibility for this storm to briefly become a hurricane, with how close Brett is to being a hurricane currently. Very strong tropical storm status is basically where we see this tropical storm sitting right now. And over the next 24 hours, it wouldn't take much to bump us into briefly into hurricane status. That's why I think those hurricane watches are up. Now, as we take a look at Tropical Depression 4, you can see that we do expect this one to develop into a tropical storm pretty quickly, and that will give us our third named storm, our sea storm, whatever that's going to be. I need to really remind myself of what those upcoming names are going to be, but this would be our third tropical storm named storm of the season. This one's going to hit anywhere. It's going to be heading in the direction of perhaps the Bahamas, but looking like maybe more of a northern trajectory than that. There is a slight curvature in the cone here, indicating that there is some chance of a more out-to-sea path. But the mean average here, as you can see, would be taking this one very close to that kind of southeast coast area. And this is one we need to watch closely to potentially bring some impacts down the road. So we're going to be watching on the channel here, especially very, very closely for that. Let's just get into your typical stuff that we go over here. We're going to be talking about the upcoming pattern in general. As we take a look at this afternoon, we can see flooding rainfall still taking place here, basically across the southeast, the Gulf states here, and then some of the plains as well, dealing with some of these heavier thunderstorms in there as well. Those are the two areas on today, Thursday, the 22nd, that we're taking a look at. By tomorrow on Friday, the 23rd, we could see that the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast is basically the area to watch. Also, this northern plains area through the northern Rockies is also going to be another area to watch for some pretty active weather in there. So we're going to keep going here, and by Saturday here on the 24th, we can see that we are going to once again have another active day for the Northeast down through the Southeast. This one's going to be a little bit more stretched. There is some dry pockets in here for Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. Maybe giving some indication that this could be a little bit of a drying up of this storminess finally for a lot of those areas. That would be well welcomed, I'm sure, by a lot of folks there. Sunday, the 25th here, we can see there is still some showers and thunderstorms around for the Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. But it is beginning to regress. We do have this next kind of low pressure center over the upper Midwest here, and this could be moving towards the east and bringing even more stormy weather before June is up. So we need to watch for that fairly closely here. By Monday afternoon, look at this. The stormy weather kind of prevails here and comes back here for Monday, the 26th. Highly unusual summer that we've had so far is moving in towards very unusual summertime weather. I mean, it has been so dreary here in Virginia for the summertime. It's been cloudy, cold, rainy, not really thunderstorms or sunniness. It's just cloudy and rainy. Very unusual for this time of year. Much more of something you would expect to potentially take place closer to September, October, November timeframe. Is a lot like what I would compare this weather to. So very, very unusual. Again, potentially record cold summer, some historic weather going on. By Tuesday, the 27th, we see this weather continue for the eastern seaboard. That is going to be another day in the upcoming pattern that we see that. Wednesday's looking a little bit better for the areas further south, as you can see. But if you were north of the Carolinas along that coast, you can see that we are still dealing with some pretty stormy weather. There's a 1,002 millibar low pressure center over the Finger Lakes there in New York. And this is kind of helping to aid that stormy weather and prevailing there. We also see a pocket of some storms for the northern Rockies and the northern plains again. So we're kind of regressing back to the same pattern. Thursday afternoon, maybe featuring some showers and thunderstorms, but this is looking a lot better here, even for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. A lot more spotty. And then Friday, maybe finally dealing with less storms. Still some chances at isolated and scattered thunderstorms for these areas, but looking a lot better as we approach July. And then July 1st here might be the first day that's looking relatively dry, but again, still dealing with some scattered thunderstorms, so you can't even rule out the rainfall. It just looks less widespread by this point. Really insane stuff, and it's really hard to really even give an answer to if we will see any extended time frame of warmth and dryness here at all. So very interesting. Clearly, this is going to lead towards above average precipitation up and down this eastern seaboard area. The reds are going to be anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of precipitation, the browns being even 5 inches plus. So usually these areas, anywhere in here, Florida might be closer to 4 or 5 inches per month in the summertime. But as you head further up, at least in Virginia here, we average about 3 inches per month here in the summertime. So for June, July timeframe, that's going to be around the neighborhood that most areas are in. So if you're seeing 2 to 5 inches of precipitation over the course of the next 10 days, that is like 3 times at least the average. So definitely taking a look at significantly above average precipitation for these areas, and especially here actually in the northern plains through the northern Rockies, where they average even less precipitation. They're seeing equal amounts here. So these red areas in general are going to be the area to watch for severe storminess, and I don't mean necessarily severe storms by that, but just the amount of rainfall and the amount of storms is going to be on the severe end of the spectrum. So definitely a lot to take in here. Total snowfall has completely died off. We see the Sierra Nevada is expecting maybe a dusting. Same story with the Northern Rockies. And we might be reaching the kind of like the finishing line here of snowfall. So we're rapidly approaching that potentially. The temperature pattern here, we see cold in the east, cold in the west. Again, we talked about this day after day, but we see this kind of negative PNA look, and this usually encourages warmth into the east and the central United States. But as you can see, this kind of cutoff low here is preventing any bit of warmth from heading to this area. So it's kind of heading around here. Doesn't really want to intrude on that low that is sitting over this area. Another thing that isn't helping is with that kind of cloudy, stormy weather, the sun isn't breaking through, so you're seeing these far below average temperatures. Now, as we keep this going towards even just early next week, we can see there's a brief period there, maybe Sunday into Monday, where there's like a little bit of above average temperatures moving in, but we really quickly see these cold temperatures move back in for the east, and then we start to see something trending which is going to not aid the situation. We see this trending positive, the PNA out here, so we see a lot of warmer temperatures. There is some colder temps there, but overall, you know, that circle is obviously featuring mostly above average temperatures. This is going to do the opposite. This is going to encourage cold into the east, where already cold is prevailing even when it shouldn't. So expect even more cold on the way for the end of June into July. And we see that cold just kind of staying there, maybe trending warmer here towards the end of the first week of July. But obviously take that with a grain of salt, as that's pretty far out. There's still blue around for the east already by that point. And look at this. A pretty strongly positive PNA seems to be what's really trending in here. So this is going to encourage some pretty frequent cold shots into these areas. And also, as we move towards July, August, September timeframe, if we see this type of a pattern prevailing with troughs here in the east, you're going to be on high alert for tropical activity along that east coast, because basically with the lower pressure already there, this would encourage storms to basically be able to just move right on in. Typically, there's some high pressure, drier, warmer weather here in the east, and that usually protects us because this causes the lows to want to move around that area. Something like this, that's a lot more frequent. But when you see lower pressure and colder temperatures in this area, there's nothing stopping a storm from just moving right on in, like I mentioned. So that's what you see oftentimes when you see these types of storm tracks that are extremely rare. They typically tend to happen in these types of a pattern, especially if the jet stream is moving along the East Coast. You could see a system ride along that, which would be even more impactful because it would impact all the coastlines as a pretty strong storm. That's obviously nightmare material there, obviously, for tropical storms. It isn't unheard of, and in this type of pattern, that is one that would happen. So we have to hope that this pattern flips by August. Otherwise, we're basically going to have to just keep our fingers crossed that a storm doesn't move in perfectly combined with that pattern we have. So there is just some implications there moving forward that I'm going to be watching closely. Anyway, be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day, and we're going to keep going over all of this for you guys. Be sure to even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Also, like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.